Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie McGrath with Forbes Breaking News. Hurricane Helene is officially a Category 3 hurricane. It is a major storm event. Joining us now to explain what you need to know about this major storm is Alex DaSilva. He's Accuweather's lead hurricane expert. Alex, thanks so much for coming back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, where are we right now? You and I spoke yesterday. It was a Category 1. Somehow we're already at Category 3. How fast is this storm moving?
Yeah, right now it's moving at about 25 miles per hour to the north right now, up in this direction. It's actually picked up quite a bit of speed right now, and it's really been intensifying here over the last few hours, especially over the last hour or two. Really can see those thunderstorms wrapping around the center of circulation right there. That's the kind of piece we were missing earlier this morning. They were wrapping around part of the eye, but they weren't getting all the way around. And in the last hour or so, we could really see those thunderstorms wrapping all the way around the eye, allowing this to strengthen, the pressure to drop, the winds to come up. And now we officially have a Category 3 hurricane making its way towards the Big Bend of Florida.
Is it on the same track that you guys have been projecting this whole week, or is it veering off of the projected track?
Yeah, overall, the track for this hasn't varied all that much since we put out our initial forecast. We've always been highlighting this area of Florida here, known as the Big Bend area. And so we're still highlighting that area. We moved the track just a tick to the east in the last update there, but overall, the storm should make landfall somewhere around that northern portion of the Big Bend area of Florida.
What time will it make landfall?
Looks like like I said, the storm has been speeding up a little bit. So right now we're keeping our 10 p.m. landfall time. That's 10 p.m. Eastern time later on today. But again, that could change slightly depending on if the storm's able to keep up its forward motion. But I would say generally between 10 p.m. and midnight, expecting a landfall right in there across the Big Bend area of Florida.
Yesterday, when we spoke, you were concerned about the surges, the surf and storm surges. What is the state of the tide and those surges right now? How high could they get? How dangerous is it?
Yeah, we're already seeing quite a bit of storm surge flooding in and around the Tampa area, and I think that's going to continue as the storm makes its way to the north over the next couple of hours and intensifies. We're expecting this to become a Category 4 hurricane before making landfall there in the Big Bend area, and so you're really piling up all that water. We're already seeing a lot of flooding in the Tampa Bay area, and that's just going to continue as the storm lifts to the north. I'm very, very concerned here about the northern portion of the Big Bend area. That is where the maximum storm surge will be observed. 15 to 20 feet. There could even be some areas that see 21, 22, 23 feet of storm surge, especially if this becomes a Category 4 hurricane. Again, that's just because of the massive size of this storm. This storm is very, very large, and so you almost have to kind of go up a category when we're talking about storm surge because just the fact that the storm is much, much larger than your average tropical storm. So yeah, most of these areas here are under mandatory evacuation, so hopefully the people in those areas have heeded those, because you just simply cannot survive a 15 to 20-foot storm surge if you're still on the beach. I mean, you think about if you go put your feet in the water at the beach, 15 to 20 feet above that, and then you take that water straight inland. That is the kind of flooding we're going to be talking about, I think, in that Big Bend area. High tide, in case you're wondering, is around midnight or so up in the Big Bend area. So it's correlating to around the time the storm's supposed to arrive.
And talk to me about the winds. How high are the winds right now? What can we expect when it makes landfall?
Yeah, so the winds right now, we're actually seeing quite a bit of wind here across the peninsula of Florida, forecasting 40 to 60. That has already verified. We've seen many reports of 40 to 60 mile per hour winds there across the peninsula of Florida, associated with a lot of those heavy rain bands that are spiraling into the storm. The maximum winds, of course, will be right near the landfall point, and that's where we could expect winds well over 100 miles per hour. We even have a AccuWeather local storm max here, 160 miles per hour. Again, we're forecasting this to become a Category 4 hurricane at landfall. So right around that landfall point is where we're expecting those really, really strong wind gusts. But even well inland here, the forward speed of the storm will allow those winds to be transported pretty far inland. We're going to have to watch to see how far inland that eye wall gets. I'm concerned about the Tallahassee area. They could sustain the western eye wall potentially from this storm as it lifts to the north. So we could see some very, very strong winds in the population center of Tallahassee. And then even lifting to the north here, in this highlighted pink area, we have 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts as the storm lifts to the north. So it's going to be merging with a big dip in the jet stream there. And that's really going to help to carry those winds very far north. And you can see we even have those strong winds getting up into the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. So very impressive winds.
You mentioned before we started recording that the hurricane hunters are out and about. How fast is this storm changing? Or is it pretty consistent with, again, with your forecast? Or how dynamic is it? And could it do something unpredictable in the coming hours?
Yeah, well, we expected that sometime today the storm would undergo rapid intensification. And so earlier today, this was a Category 1 hurricane, then it became Category 2. Now it's a Category 3. It could become a Category 4 a little bit later today. So it's this period of rapid intensification. It's usually very hard to predict, but we've done a very good job of being able to predict this. We always thought that during the day today, the storm would undergo this period of rapid intensification, and it has, unfortunately, undergone that. And so that's why we're thinking that it's still going to be able to make landfall here, potentially as a Category 4 hurricane up across the Big Bend area of Florida. And that's due to the fact that the water temperatures are very warm where this storm is, right in this area here. There's a current that runs through here, just like this, called the loop current. And it transports very warm water and very deep warm water. And so the storm is essentially over that loop current right now. And I think that's why the storm is really beginning to intensify right now.
I was just about to ask about ocean temperatures. I saw a report that indicated that those temperatures are 126% higher than normal. Can you talk about how rare a storm system like this is, or perhaps not rare in the age of climate change?
Yeah, well, over the last couple of years, we've really seen a spike in those water temperatures. Basically, the entire Atlantic basin, almost the entire Atlantic basin, is experiencing above average sea surface temperatures, sometimes even several degrees above average. But it's not only the sea surface temperatures, it's the temperatures with depth as you go down into the ocean. We call that ocean heat content. And essentially, the hottest ocean, or the warmest ocean heat content, is right here across the Western Caribbean and southeastern Gulf of Mexico. And the 80-degree temperature line extends 300 to 400 feet down below the ocean surface. So very impressive. And we've seen those numbers really tick up here in the last 10 to 15 years in terms of ocean heat content. So I think as we go throughout the future here, in terms of climate change, it does look like that the ocean heat content values are really increasing. So it's that depth of the warm water going down, and that can really help to fuel these episodes of rapid intensification.
So the rapid intensification is leading to landfall in Big Bend, storm surges, high winds. Let's talk about rainfall. Yesterday, the Accuweather forecast put a very wide range on the areas expecting rain, including as far north as North Carolina. Where does that forecast stand right now?
Yeah, well, a lot of these areas have already seen a lot of rain. I was just looking at Asheville, North Carolina, right in that area there. They're approaching 9–10 inches of rain already, and the main part of the storm hasn't gotten there yet. This is all due to that big dip in the jet stream I mentioned. It's helping to really pull that moisture to the north and really enhance that moisture. But what's going to happen is as the storm lifts to the north, you're going to get an onshore push like this coming from the east, and it's going to hit against those mountains, and it's going to be forced upwards, and it's really going to get wrung out like a sponge. And so we're very concerned about catastrophic flooding in this area here. The red area is where we're expecting major to catastrophic flooding, and I think the worst of it will be right in here, right in the southern Appalachians, where we could be talking about a significant 1,000-year-plus event in those areas right there. So we're concerned about mudslides. We've already seen road closures in that area. It looks like a very devastating and dangerous situation about to unfold in the southern Appalachians.
A 1,000+ year event. Are these areas under evacuation to the best of your knowledge?
I am not sure, to be honest, quite yet. I would imagine there might be some local evacuations. There are a lot of rivers in that area that are expected to be near or even exceed record crest levels. So I imagine along those rivers, I would imagine those emergency management officials are probably going and telling those people to move if that's what is deemed necessary. But it looks like it's going to be a very dangerous situation up there in the southern Appalachians over the next couple of days. Like I said, it's already raining there now. And then once the storm gets up there, the main storm is still way down in the Gulf. So that still has to work its way through. So during the day tomorrow, we can expect a lot of rain and a lot of issues up there in the Appalachians.
So the storm is still in the Gulf. It's still Category 3. When might it become Category 4? And then when might it start to taper off?
Yeah, well, we're forecasting it to become a Category 4 for landfall, so it could happen as early as 5 p.m. Eastern. That's kind of the next big update from the National Hurricane Center, but they'll be issuing updates in between that as well. Looks like they're starting to do hourly position updates. Hurricane hunters are flying in and out of the storm right now, so as soon as they're basically able to find those Category 4 strength winds, that's when the upgrade would take place. So I would expect anywhere between 5 p.m. and when the storm makes landfall sometime later on this evening, that's when we could see the upgrade to Category 4.
And then when might it taper off? When will Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina start seeing some relief?
Yeah, well, the storm's going to be moving to the north pretty quickly, at least initially here. So tonight is going to be a really bad situation down here across the portions of the southeast. But then as we go throughout tomorrow, I think Florida will start to see improving conditions during the day tomorrow. But the conditions up here in the Appalachians is going to get really bad. Again, you can see the 8 a.m. point there near Atlanta, Georgia. The winds are really going to be transported pretty far to the north. During the day tomorrow, I would expect big time flooding issues to continue up across the southern Appalachians. Like I said, we will see improving conditions down across Florida. The waters that were inundated those areas from the storm surge should begin to pull back at that time. But like I said, the conditions will be going downhill up across the Appalachians and Tennessee Valley.
Is this the worst storm we have seen in 2024, or is it too soon to say?
I think this will end up being the worst storm that we've seen so far this year. I think it will be the strongest storm that we've seen so far this year. We have not seen a major hurricane make landfall in the United States this year, and it looks like that this would be the first one to make landfall later today. And again, it's such a far-reaching storm. I mean, you look at even the storm surge. We're even expecting storm surge along the east coast of Florida, even up into the Carolinas. They've already dealt with a lot of beach erosion problems, and it looks like that's going to be continuing. We also have to keep an eye out for tornadoes as well. Already seen some reports of some tornadoes, lots of tornado warnings so far today. Typically, we look to the east of where the storm makes landfall. So if the storm's taking a track like that, everywhere to the east has to be aware of the potential for tropical tornadoes.
Speaking of tornadoes, that brings me to what should folks on the ground do? What's the message for everyone who's currently in that highlighted section of the map?
Yeah, the best way to prepare is to have a way to receive warnings, especially if you're in that tornado zone area to the east of the center of circulation. Have a way to receive warnings from your local officials to be able to take action in case there is a tornado. But yes, time is running out. We are in the last few hours here before the storm makes landfall, so any last-minute preparations have to be rushed to completion at this point. If you're told to evacuate, if you're told to move by your local officials, please do so, because this is going to be a very dangerous situation, especially across Florida and then up into the Carolinas as well. If you're told to move from your location, whether it be due to potential river flooding, please listen to your local officials, because they know that topography the best. They know what areas are prone to flooding, and so we want people to listen to their local officials.
Alex DaSilva, Accuweather's lead hurricane expert, thank you so much for breaking this down for us. We really appreciate your insight.
Thank you.